Cop risks his life to save a German Shepherd puppy in a cage. What the mother does next is chilling. One rainy morning, the air was damp and heavy, enveloping the quiet forest on the outskirts of the city. Officer Jack was driving his patrol car, his eyes constantly scanning the surroundings. He received an emergency call from the command center. A civilian had spotted a metal cage left in a desolate area. Feeling something was very off and uneasy, the civilian called the police. Jack didn't hesitate. He immediately turned his car onto a foggy dirt road. Tall, ancient trees loomed overhead, their leaves scattered across the ground, adding to the already gloomy and desolate atmosphere. The wet earth squelched under his feet, and the sound of the rain falling steadily created an oppressive silence. Jack stopped the car, stepped out, and felt the strange stillness of the forest. He walked a short distance, eyes fixed on the dense foliage. As he neared the designated location, Jack suddenly stopped. From afar, he saw a small metal cage, discarded among the bushes. What was strange was that this cage was not something you would usually find in a forest. A feeling of unease surged within Jack. He moved closer, and the anxiety in his chest grew stronger. When he reached the cage, Jack saw a small German Shepherd puppy inside, only a few weeks old. It lay still, its large eyes wide with fear, as if it did not understand what was happening. Its fur was tangled, and its body trembled from the cold. Jack could feel the vulnerability of the tiny creature, and a pang of sorrow welled up inside him. The puppy showed no resistance. It simply stared at Jack with a pleading gaze, making his heart tighten. He knew this wasn't a normal situation. Someone had likely abandoned it, but why leave it in such a desolate place? And most importantly, who could do this to such a defenseless creature? Jack stood there, his hands clenched, unsure of what to do next. But deep inside, one decision was already clear. He had to save this puppy, even if it meant risking his own safety. The growing sense of unease and curiosity about the puppy's fate pushed him to act quickly. But as he crouched down to open the cage, little did he know, another danger was lurking behind him. Jack stood still, his eyes never leaving the puppy in the cage. It looked up at him with an expression full of fear, as if it could not understand why it was abandoned in such a situation. Jack's heart raced, filled with an indescribable sadness. He crouched closer to the cage and gently called to the puppy. But it only timidly glanced back at him, its eyes full of terror. Certain that the puppy needed help, Jack decided he could not just stand there. But the cage was too sturdy, and it was locked with an old rusty padlock. Jack tried to turn the lock, but it would not open. He knew that if he did not act fast, the puppy would not survive in its current state. The silence around him grew more intense, with only the sound of the rain and Jack's heavy breathing filling the air. He turned back to his patrol car, searching for anything that could help him break open the cage. In his bag, he only found a hammer and a few simple tools. An uncomfortable feeling settled over him. At that moment, the silence in the forest made everything feel even more terrifying. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, as if an unseen presence was watching him from the darkness. However, Jack could no longer hesitate. The only option was to break the cage, even if it meant putting himself in danger. He grabbed the hammer, his hand trembling slightly, but he had to act. The first strike on the cage echoed like an explosion in the silent air. The puppy flinched, let out a small whimper, and backed into a corner. Jack couldn't stop. He continued to strike the metal cage forcefully. Each blow made his heart feel like it was choking. The puppy cried out in distress, terrified but unable to escape. Jack gave everything he had. Each layer of metal cracked under his force. But in his mind, one question kept ringing. What would happen after the puppy was freed? When the cage was finally broken, the puppy darted out, but it did not run far. It stood there, trembling, staring at Jack as though waiting for something. A sense of worry surged within him because at that moment he had no idea what awaited him ahead. As Jack tried to calm himself, a strange sound came from the distance. At first, it was a faint noise, but gradually it became clearer. Jack turned around, and when he saw a large shadow moving through the tree branches, he realized he had made a huge mistake. The real danger was approaching, and Jack was not prepared for it. He looked at the puppy, which was shaking and panicking. He knew he had to get it out of the forest quickly, but just as he was about to head back to the car, an uneasy feeling rose in him. Even though there was no clear sound, something in the air made him feel like he was being watched. The puppy didn't run away. It simply stood still, looking at Jack as if it didn't know what to do next. Jack bent down, gently patting it, trying to reassure it. But at that moment, he heard a low hiss from behind, like the growl of a beast. Jack's heart raced, and he felt a chill run down his spine. He quickly turned around, but saw nothing but the dark shadows in the distance. Yet Jack knew one thing for sure: the silence was only temporary. He could sense danger lurking somewhere in the shadows. Unable to stand still any longer, Jack quickly scooped up the puppy, held it close, and began walking briskly toward the car. But just as he took a few steps, a loud noise came from behind, and immediately Jack turned around. A giant dark figure charged at him with terrifying speed. It was an adult German Shepherd, with red eyes, sharp fangs, and a muscular body. It snarled, its barking tearing through the air. Jack took a step back, his heart pounding as if it were about to leap out of his chest. The puppy in his arms began to squirm, sensing the approaching danger. The mother dog didn't stop. It kept charging at Jack, its mouth wide open, ready to attack. Jack could feel the coldness in the air. He couldn't believe that in just a few minutes, a situation this dangerous had unfolded. He didn't have much time left. Now, Jack only had one choice: to protect himself and the puppy at all costs. In his mind, he quickly formulated a plan of action, but he knew that if the mother dog attacked, escaping would not be easy. Jack held the puppy tightly, pulling it close to his chest. He looked into the eyes of the mother dog, realizing that the determination in her gaze was not something to be taken lightly. Jack couldn't think of drawing his gun or harming the mother dog. He could only hope that his instincts would help him find a way out of this situation. The mother dog was getting closer, its mouth wide open, but at that moment, Jack knew one thing: everything was just beginning. Jack couldn't take his eyes off the mother dog. Its strong, rapid steps made the ground seem to tremble. Its growl echoed through the silent forest, as if signaling an inevitable battle. The mother dog showed no sign of stopping, her eyes glowing red, filled with hatred. Jack felt fear spreading throughout his body, but he could not let worry take over at this moment. He stepped back slowly, carefully but quickly. The puppy in his arms was panicking, struggling to break free. Jack held it tightly, but his mind could not escape the sight of the approaching mother dog. On high alert, Jack wondered if the mother dog would attack or if she just wanted to retrieve her pup. At that moment, a strange sensation suddenly overwhelmed Jack. Even though the mother dog was approaching him at a rapid pace, he could not ignore the fact that something even more terrifying was lurking in the shadows. His eyes scanned the canopy around him, sensing an invisible presence, unseen but felt. Suddenly, a strange noise came from behind. Jack turned around, his eyes widening. A huge shadow swept through the trees. At first, he could not tell what it was, but soon a glimpse of a large creature with a bizarre shape flashed in the darkness. It wasn't an ordinary dog. How could there be another creature here? Jack's heart pounded, and instantly he realized that the danger wasn't just coming from the mother dog. A greater, more terrifying threat was approaching. The creature showed no sign of fear, moving relentlessly like a nightmare. Jack felt as though the entire forest was closing in on him, leaving no escape. The mother dog continued to growl, each of her steps making Jack feel like he was walking into an inescapable trap. He dared not glance to the other side, but everything he sensed was clear. The danger did not just come from the mother dog, but from something larger, more terrifying, that he could not yet comprehend. Jack stood between two threats, not knowing what to do. He could only hope that his determination and instincts would help him find a way out of this situation. But at that moment, the only question in his mind was, what would happen next? The mother dog didn't stop. It growled with each step, its eyes red as fire, its mouth wide open, revealing sharp teeth. Jack could feel each of his heartbeats, strong and fast. With every step the mother dog took, the tension in the air grew. He could no longer retreat, no longer run. The only option was to face it. The mother dog seemed to understand that it could not let Jack leave with her pup so easily. It paused briefly, but then charged at Jack with terrifying speed. Its barking echoed through the forest, as if it were shattering the silence around them. Jack couldn't believe that the situation had gotten this bad. He could only hold the puppy tightly, hoping that the mother dog would stop. Suddenly, Jack thought about using his gun, but he could not bring himself to do it. The mother dog was just an animal protecting her pup, and he did not want to harm her. However, the mother dog's attack was not something to be taken lightly. Every leap she made was almost reaching Jack. He could feel the danger was right in front of him. At that moment, Jack started to realize something terrifying. The mother dog was not the only threat. The large creature he had seen earlier in the back was still not fully revealed. Suddenly, from the shadows, Jack saw its silhouette flash again, like a giant monster moving with deadly silence. It wasn't a dog. It was a wild creature of enormous size, with glowing eyes and dense fur. Jack's heart pounded. He knew that if he did not act quickly, both he and the puppy would fall into the hands of that creature. A quick decision had to be made. He glanced back at the mother dog, then toward the darkness where the creature was lurking. Both threats were closing in. There was no more time to think. With all the strength he had left, Jack gritted his teeth and decided to move forward. He knew that if he didn't strike first, he wouldn't have a chance to survive. The mother dog charged at him, and it was only 1 second away from attacking. But just then, a loud noise came from deep in the forest, like something enormous was moving fast. Jack didn't have time to think anymore. He knew he had to act now, or there would be no chance left. Jack couldn't comprehend what was happening. Everything was happening so fast and chaotically. The mother dog was still charging toward him, her barking tearing through the air. But it wasn't just her. The large shadow, the creature he had sensed before, was now very close. Jack felt like 2 terrible threats were surrounding him at the same time. He looked around. There was no time left to think. The mother dog continued to advance, her steps full of determination. The other creature was moving in the darkness, and Jack began to notice something strange. It seemed that the creature was not just a wild animal. It moved too fluidly, as though it had a clear consciousness, some sort of plan. Now Jack knew he could not just stand there and wait. He had to choose, confront the mother dog and save the puppy, or face the other creature, which might be even more dangerous. At this point, every decision was a matter of life and death. In his moment of confusion, a person suddenly appeared from afar. How was he here? Jack didn't have time to think, only able to shout, "Run, quickly!" But this person just stood there, his eyes fixed on the mother dog. It seemed like he was trying to assess the situation, and this made Jack feel uneasy. As a person, how could he not be as afraid as Jack? Could it be that he knew something Jack did not? Jack's eyes blinked quickly, and fear began to rise. Was there something in this forest that they did not understand yet? Or did this person have some sort of plan to deal with everything? The mother dog was getting closer, and the fear was growing more and more inside Jack. He felt like everything was unraveling, and he could not tell which threat was the real one. The only thing Jack knew at that moment was that if he did not act now, it would be too late. Some truth was starting to be revealed, but Jack could not fully understand it, and what he didn't know might cost him his life. Jack couldn't believe what he was seeing. The mother dog was just a few steps away from him, growling and charging with determination. But then something unexpected happened. The person Jack had just seen earlier suddenly stepped out from the shadows and shouted something that Jack could not hear clearly. The mother dog's growl echoed throughout the forest, but she did not attack immediately. Instead, she stopped as though something was holding her back. The large creature was still moving in the shadows, and Jack realized it was standing still, seemingly observing everything. The air grew heavy, and each passing second felt like a century. Suddenly, the man held something in his hand, a special spray, and sprayed it into the air. The mother dog began to retreat, but not out of fear, as if it were sensing something unusual. Jack felt a cold breeze pass by, and suddenly he realized a terrifying truth. This man was not an ordinary person. He knew more about what was happening in this forest than Jack did. But while Jack was still stunned, the large creature suddenly moved faster, charging toward the man. In the blink of an eye, an unavoidable clash occurred. Jack stood frozen, unsure of what to do. The man was fighting the creature, but did he have enough strength to handle it? And would the mother dog continue to attack them, or would it protect its pup in this moment? Just as the chaos was reaching its peak, Jack heard the puppy's pitiful cries. It was struggling, trying to escape, and in that instant, a flash of light lit up the night. Jack realized that another opportunity might be emerging. He had to act right now, or everything would be lost. While the battle was still raging on, Jack finally decided not to hesitate any longer. He tightly held the puppy and sprinted into the forest, quickly moving away from the danger zone. But as he looked back, he saw the silhouette of the mother dog still standing there, its eyes glowing red, as if watching every step he took. And behind him, the darkness still loomed, with no way of knowing what would happen next. Jack didn't know if he would escape the forest safely, but one thing he was certain of: the story of this forest and the dangers within it was far from over. The secrets still lay hidden in the shadows, and Jack felt as if he had only scratched the surface of a strange world he had never fully understood. Thank you all for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the best stories. See you in the next one.